Thank you for joining us on the Winning and Selling Podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
When I messed up, my dad used to tell me that I had just shot myself in the foot. But then he was a military man. Some of his more colorful aphorisms might slip out later in the show, so stay tuned. In any event, we have all been our own worst enemy on a sales call and done or said something that caused us to lose the deal. To minimize this problem, listen for behaviors you should avoid, as Scott and I discuss the top 5 ways to screw up your sale and other great ideas on episode 483 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
All right, where are we in the book club? We are on Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'm curious, Bill, when we first got into this chapter last week, you said synergy. Now, there's a word that's overused. How do you feel after you read the chapter about that word?
Well, I like the chapter. I think he is going beyond the win-win and looking for something where everybody does better because they've gotten together. And I like that idea, but I do think it's difficult. And he did a good job setting it up to say, you've got to be willing to listen to understand, and you've got to be looking for the win-win. Those two things together then can allow for the opportunity to synergize.
Yeah, I totally agree. And sometimes over time, words get redefined and misused and overused. And if somebody were to ask me, what is your superhuman strength? I would say tolerance, because
unless they listen to the show, and then they would know that's a lie.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Anyway, I think you and I have the same position on the word and the topic and what we really took out of it. And one thing that I read about is the difference between compromise and creating synergy. And I really liked his example there of, compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Synergy is 1 + 1 = 8 or 16 or 1600. And I really like that metaphor.
Well, and certainly looking at the way people are dealing with each other these days in an all or nothing fashion from a national standpoint, maybe an international standpoint, when you read the news, we certainly aren't looking for synergy. We're looking for ways to cancel people, to put people out, to say your voice is valueless. And I think it's hurting us. Yeah. So this goal, this desire to look for synergy, is a great goal.
Yeah. And boy, applied on an international level would, I think, change the world, obviously.
Well, it certainly would keep us from being at each other's throats. A thought that you must be wrong so I can be right is certainly not what he's talking about here. And in sales, if we want to move this towards sales, I've always been taught and taught others to get on the same side of the table with the client. You can't get into a client situation where it's me versus you and have anybody win. Everybody's going to lose a little and feel bad. So to have the situation come out, we need to be on the same side of the table, looking at the problem through a little different perspective each way, but with the same goal of winning and having things get better.
Yeah. And this is really the foundation of my tolerance with the word help, not using help, using work with, because you're working with a prospect on the same side of the table against and actively against, together in synergy, in collaboration against a problem. And in some cases, that problem is in action where prospects are doing nothing. So sometimes we need to present the consequences, but that's a little bit off base on what we're talking about today.
Well, I think it's on base, although you should say you're intolerant about the word help and not tolerant about it. But what we want to think about, I thought his story about the bankers and the people trying to put the housing project together was really good, that they had to take a lot of time for people to feel safe. We go into these, whether it's a negotiation or a sales situation, and quite often we've talked about building trust, and that takes time. And if you want to go in and close them on the first day and ABC, always be closing and yada, 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 you're not building trust. And that, you might be able to sell them a timeshare that they're going to regret for the rest of their life and you don't care. But you're not going to be able to develop a business working relationship that says we're going to be working together for the long term by always be closing and trying to close everybody on the first deal. that's not going to do it for you. Closing,
Right.
always be closing, is for the salesperson who never wants to see him again.
And those that love the movie Glengarry Glen Ross.
Well,
and that, has that movie has some certain gifts to it, but not all of them are gifts.
Written by someone who hates salespeople. So,
well, yeah, that's very, very true. This is out of the book, right at the first page. When properly understood, synergy is the highest level in all life, the true test and manifestation of all the other habits put together. And he used that a lot in the book throughout the chapter about how he went back and reiterated habits 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6, and how he really separated those two. And we saw in the illustration how those are separate, but he really brought synergy into the main attribute of the entire chapter.
Well, absolutely. So he really did a good job in this book, and that's probably why it was one of the most popular books of the 90s, in that he built on things. He said, in order to be at level 2, you have to have done habit 1. You can't go to habit 2 until you have habit 1. And you can't do synergize habit 6 if you're not going to be doing 4 and 5, which are to look for the win-win and listen to understand. You just can't do it because you're going to be too selfish. So his communication in this area was excellent, and it's just very challenging.
Yeah. One of the things they talked about was the 4 unique human endowments. And when I read that, I'm going, I don't remember what that is. So I had to look it up in the index, and I found it way back earlier in the chapter. And the 4 levels of human endowment are self-awareness, imagination, conscious, and independent will. The freedom to choose. That was that illustration earlier on in the chapter. Did you pick that up, or did you remember what those were, Bill? Or?
Well, I think those are the things that separate us from animals, right?
Yeah.
But I think of those things. And
memory, I think, is another thing that separates us from animals. And I feel like I'm an
no,
animal.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
My dog has got a pretty good memory. I don't think that's. I got a dog who, when I drive to my mother's house, she knows when we're there. So,
Wow.
So I think dogs have a very good memory, or at least that's the only animal but I do think this freedom to choose, a consciousness, imagination, those are the things that separate us and make us different if we're willing to use those and not just be working out of our natural instincts. And that's where we have to push ourselves for things like synergy. It's not going to happen because we desire it. It's going to happen because we intentionally start to change the way we interact with other people. And again, I have to always bring it back to sales, because that's what our audience is listening for. You have to change your mindset about if you want to win the deal, or whether you want to develop a synergy with this other organization so that you can work together. And I know you hate this word too, in your tolerance, partnership.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to elevate it to a much higher level than me selling you something.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I really took away from the chapter, I think was a powerful part, is the 3 levels of communication. There's one is defensive, and that's a win, lose, or lose, win. So it could be on either side of that. The second one is respectful, which is compromise. And like I said earlier, compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. There's another great line in the chapter where it says, if 2 people have the same opinion, one is worthless, or, one is unnecessary.
That's right.
That's a very good point. And then the third is synergistic, which is a win-win. It's really working together. And, this gets into negotiation. That gets into understanding what is the goal. It really gets into what are the elements of a good agreement, and then really getting into the essence is what is the motivation? Why is this important? Why does this matter? What kind of impact is the outcome going to have on your life personally? And really striving to understand that. And now you're creating a synergistic activity where you're working together in collaboration, and like collaboration over partnership. So I think when you think partnership, think about collaboration as 2 people working together. And as we talk about that, I think about one of our previous guests, Michael Gregory, who has the collaboration effect, his book, and he talks about mediation and arbitration and really working together with people through negotiations and collaborations. Just a fabulous episode. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, go back and listen to the episode with Michael Gregory.
And that's why I thought his story about the bankers and the developers was so important, because it really illustrated that we need to break down those barriers that we have. And we get into a relationship, even if the relationship starts out well, things happen. we get frustrated with each other, and we have to go back to those basics and say, okay, what are we here for? Where do we agree? And we're so good at saying, hey, let me tell you where I disagree. And the chances are that we agree much more with people than we disagree, but we focus on our disagreements rather than on the areas where we agree. And that's what's so frustrating about dealing with other people, is that we spend all of our time defending our position rather than looking at it from their point of view or listening to understand.
I think in closing this part of the episode, the podcast, he has a line in there: is it logical that two people can agree and both be right? And that's not logical. That's psychological. And you think about, I thought about that. I'm going, well, people talk about, well, that's your truth. Here's my truth. That's your truth. Here's my truth. Well, not really. I mean, it may be opinions, not truths, because I really believe that there's one truth. But when you start getting into psychological, now you're really starting to understand a person's mind and their beliefs. There can be two different beliefs, two different positions. The perception is reality for us. So our beliefs determine our reality. Is everything real? Yeah. Is it true? It might not be true. So
I think it goes back to that picture that he started the whole book with.
Yeah. Good
point. Old versus a young lady.
Yeah.
We see things through the lenses that we were brought up with, the lens that we have, and sometimes how we see something the first time tends to color our perception of it. So what he's saying is, perhaps you're wrong. Perhaps your perception there's another option for that. So listen to understand, so that you can look at the other person's option and know that there's truth there, even if it's not the same truth that you see.
Yeah. Totally agree. We're going to start closing up the book here in a couple of weeks.
Yes. And we got an exciting announcement next week about our next book and what we're going to be doing with that. We are going to have the authors on in November. So listen for that announcement next week.
Yeah. Stay tuned for more. This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of the Winning at Selling podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future.
Well, this is a favorite topic of mine, and I think that, as I said in the opening, shoot yourself in the foot. How do you screw up your own sale? And so that's what we're going to go through and just have some fun with today on the podcast. That is, what are some of the top 5 ways to screw up your sale? I picked 5. Scott picked 5. We'll go through those back and forth. There'll probably be some similarities in those, although looking at Scott's, they're not exactly the same as mine. But I think what we do as salespeople, try to avoid screwing up your own deal, right?
Right. I think that this is going to be an interesting one. And as I think we finish our 5, I think people are going to say, well, I got some other ones that you did.
Oh, yeah. Send them in.
We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, my video series, my 2-minute selling tips, the last 3 or 4 are on things salespeople do to make you hate them. And some of these are from that too. So
Boy, that could be a monthly segment, a monthly show. Is today's episode is a monthly series of what salespeople do to screw up their lives, basically. Right. Save it for group.
We didn't even do lives. Cases. We only did the sale. You could screw up your life in a lot.
It impacts their life. I tell you, when you start taking it personally, going, that ain't going to end well, or this ain't not going to get any better from here, and you just know it going into it. You go, this I just not going to end well.
Yeah. For True Grit fans, as Brewster Cogburn said, that didn't pan out so good. So. All right, number one on my list: little or no planning. They don't think through the issues. They don't develop a question set. They just go in. Hey, I've talked to people before. I've been in sales for 20 years. I got an appointment with a big deal here. Let's just wing it. They go in with nothing planned. I just encourage people to at least sit down and develop a set of 7-8 questions so you know where you're heading this thing. But nope. And when we don't think it through, we get out our catalog and we start showing them crap.
Yeah, and they go, "Hey, man, that's just the way I roll, man. That's just my style. The way I roll." No. We're going to have to roll a little differently then. But I always say, the separation is in the preparation. And when you're talking with somebody, when you're leaving a message, when you're cold calling prospects, have at least 3 objectives that you want to reach. Here are 3 reasons on the voicemail on why you should call me back. And I'm going to be talking about areas of emotion in my 3 areas. And then when you call me back, I'm going to say, I'm really grateful that you called me back. I'm kind of curious, what made you decide to return my call? And you're going to find out what's most important to that prospect. Talk about what's most important. Don't talk about what makes you different. That's not important unless you know it and it's confirmed by a question, or it's something that the prospect ends up submitting with you.
Well, I just think it takes, so long to get an appointment. It takes so much work to get an appointment. What are you doing winging it? What are you doing going into that appointment without thinking through what their issues are, doing a little bit of pre-approach as far as who they are, where they come from? If you're not going to do that, why are you wasting all this time setting up a meeting?
What are your objectives? If it's a qualified prospect, it's even more important that you prepare. And you're making the call, you're targeting a certain universe. And those are all areas of working effectively. Yep. And when we've got a limited amount of time and we've got a number that we've got to achieve on a monthly, quarterly, annual goal, we need to be more specific about who we're talking with and how we're trading our time. And that's good judgment. And salespeople are hired based on one attribute, good judgment. It's very difficult to teach good judgment.
Well, speaking of limited time, let's go to your number 1, or we're not going to get through these 10.
Yeah, very similar to yours is not listening. I think salespeople need to listen extensively, very, very wide range of listening, and intensively, very, very deep. When they talk about something that you need to learn more about, dig deeper into it. Oh, I'm really interested that you say that. Could you give me an example? Tell me more. How often has that happened? What have you done to try to fix it? What happened when you tried to fix it? What was the outcome of that? If you had a chance to do it over again, what would it be? And you're really extensively listening to them and following up with questions. Extensively, wide range. What are some of the things that they're not saying to you that are relevant, and why aren't they sharing it with you? That's active listening. So important. It's the foundation of communication is active listening.
And I think take notes. I can't tell you the number of salespeople that I see that just don't even take notes. They think they're going to remember this complicated conversation about, nuanced needs, and it's just going to come into their mind. And then they have another appointment after that, and all 3 of them get jumbled together. So do your listening, but show that you're listening by taking notes, taking good notes, and then asking those follow-up questions, as Scott mentioned.
Just one technique on taking notes. I always had a problem taking notes when I was in a business meeting, and I felt like I was interrogating the prospect. And for me to relieve that pressure, and it was my problem, I asked the prospect, "Are you okay if I take notes? Because I don't want you to think that I'm deposing you or I'm gaining evidence against you. I just want to be able to write down parts of our conversation that are important. Is it okay if I do that?" "Oh, absolutely. Go right ahead. Thank you."
Yeah, I think they always appreciate that. And I don't talk about interrogation. I just say, listen, I took the time to write some questions down for you. Do you mind if I take some notes as we have our conversation? Because I want to make sure I get all the details. I always put it in their perspective. I want to make sure I get all your needs written down.
Yeah. But it took the pressure off of me, and I could then be myself, and I might be a little assertive in a meeting, and some prospects may perceive that as being interrogation. So I called it out on myself. I put it all on myself, and I took the pressure all off me on what I did just based on that one statement in question.
All right, let's go to my number 2, which is going in ready to give your pitch no matter what.
Yeah.
I've got my company pitch. I love my company pitches. Throw them out the window. They suck. By the way, just so you know, your company pitch was written by marketing, and they have no idea what you're selling, and all it is chest pounding. So screw your pitch and start to listen. As Scott said, listen extensively and intensively, and don't go in ready to give your pitch, because what's going to happen is you're going to give it inappropriately at the wrong time in the wrong situation, because you think by giving your pitch, they're going to get more interested in you. And I've never had anybody get more interested in me because I told them something. They get more interested because I listened and I approached them at what their needs were. And then we talked about their needs more.
But I went to a 3-hour workshop and I paid $129 on my messaging. And now I've got to use it. And it was just a lot of work to go through and get my pitch down. Now what am I going to do? I'm not going to get that time or money back. You might not get that. You might not get the prospect back either.
Yeah. You know? and they gave me a computer that I could turn around and they could see the screen at the same time. And so now I can click through the pitch of 400 slides, and I know they'll be interested once we get done.
Yeah. So, I do think that storytelling is powerful. I think it has to be done at the right time, and it needs to be in a way that's most interesting to the prospect too. So that's
there's
different.
There's always time for a proof statement. That's what a pitch is.
Okay.
Right? It's a proof statement. It says we can do what we tell you we can do. Mm-hmm. And we have the authority and the backing to prove it, which might be other customers we've talked to. But that doesn't have to come out in the first time that you meet somebody. It's not, hello, I'm Bill. Let me show you my pitch to see if there's anything you're interested in. It's, hello, I'm Bill. Let's talk about your company and your needs. And then eventually I'll get to showing you the proof statement that I have sometime, maybe in this first appointment, maybe later on. Depends on where we go with this.
Yeah, that's the process. My next one is very similar to yours, Bill, and that is being assumptive that people have a problem that they want to change, and they want you to help them make that change. There's 3 parts of that. Being assumptive, we should not be assumptive that everybody has a problem, because not everybody has a problem. That they want to change, that's not always true. And that they want you to be the guide to work with them to change, that's not true. And I think following up on your point about pitching, if your solution doesn't stick to a problem and there's no reason for the prospect to change, it's jibber jabber. I mean, your pitch means nothing to them, and it has no value. And the prospect is going to switch from guns to missiles. And if you don't leave the room quickly, you may be the target of one of them.
Well, here's what they want you to say. Let me show you my pitch. And when I hit on something that's going to wow you, you jump up and down and you go,
great.
Oh my God, I can't believe I've been waiting for you all my life for this exact product or service. Thank God you're here.
God,
I couldn't, how did I survive without you? And oh my gosh, you work internationally. Oh my gosh, I know I just work in Minneapolis, but I just was looking for somebody who worked internationally to tell me how wonderful they were, so I could go. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, it's like watching The Price is Right and hoping you get $1.
That's right. Now, here's the interesting thing that I found, though. You talk about assumptive. If someone will give me an appointment and take the time to meet me, chances are there's some need they have there. Now, it's my job to uncover that. But I do assume there's something back there. I don't know what it is. I don't know how we're going to get to it yet. But they're not taking their time to see me just to fill up part of their day.
So what's your technique, Bill, on exercising that intent?
Well, I ask questions. I say, I'm glad we were able to get together. I don't know a lot about your company. I've done a little bit of pre-work to find out about who you are. But do you mind if I ask you some questions about what you're doing and where you're going and what you see? And I ask questions built around, for me, training and development and their team and where their team is going, and if they're able to do the things that they want them to do. And if not, then we're starting to uncover a need. So how's it going are my questions.
Yeah. Mine is, I get to the appointment. I go, thanks for inviting me in. As I sit down at the conference room table, open up my notepad, a little chit chat. And I said, as I was driving over here, I was thinking about some of the things that I wanted to make sure that we covered. And I'm guessing that you probably did the same thing. So as we were scheduling this time together and you thought about reserving time on your calendar, what were some of the things that you were thinking about that you wanted to cover? And now you're going to get right out of them what's most important and what their intent is of the reason for the meeting.
Excellent.
And then you go from there. And then you may share your agenda, but it's a great way for you to find out what their assumptions are in reasons to meet. And they have assumptions because they're assuming that you have a solution to their problem, but you have to find out what's the problem, what the impact is, and the prioritization and the motivation as to why to change that. So what's your next one,
You'll see
Bill?
from both of those listeners that neither of us are going in with our pitch. We're going in with questions, design questions, things we know we're going to do to move the customer toward being honest with us and developing trust.
Yeah.
All right, my number 3, an over-reliance on product knowledge and too few selling skills. We see this all the time on onboarding. 3 weeks of product knowledge and 2 days of selling skills with our maybe, and go get them, Tiger. And there's a thought that if you know everything you need to know about your product, then you're going to be able to sell it effectively. And then what that means is, in my experience, instead of asking questions, they go out ready to talk. Because if all I've been trained on is product knowledge, then all I've got is spewing to do to show you how much product knowledge I have. And that's a challenge, especially for new salespeople. They don't feel comfortable, so they want to talk. And I would just beg you, if you don't feel comfortable, ask.
Right. And another, product knowledge adds a lot of confidence to salespeople. And I think that's primary benefit of product knowledge is that it adds confidence.
Right.
The drawback is that salespeople love to share how much they know. And when they get uncomfortable, they want to share knowledge because they think knowledge builds credibility. I would say that questions relevant to a prospect on making a change carries more credibility when you focus on that. And product knowledge, once you start learning about product knowledge, guess what? What's the goal? Where's the end point? Once you start studying something, you realize you'll never know as much as you need to know or want to know, and it's a black hole, and you'll never pull out of that dive, folks. It's like, oh, there's more. I need to know more. I need to know. Some people never leave the building. Well, they get to school at age 5. They've never left the building.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about school.
Okay.
I see this a lot with large organizations. They have the technical sales team that comes with them on the second or third call.
Sure.
So the goal of the primary salesperson isn't to be the smartest person in the room. Oh, by the way, that's another mistake you can make, wanting to be the smartest person, and that's that over-reliance on product knowledge. I want to make my client the smartest person in the room. And to tell you the truth, if I'm a new salesperson, just keep asking questions. And then at the close, you say, you know what? I want to take this back to the team and get input from some of our product experts. So the next time we get together, which is the reason for your first meeting is to have another meeting. The time we get together, we can bring in some of our experts, you bring in some of your experts, and we can continue to build on this set of understanding of each other.
Yeah. The expert, I always say, bring in the tank, out of the movie Die Hard. They're kind of struggling right now. They go, bring in the tank. And here comes this tank rolling up. And it's like, this is our heavy gun. This is what's going to solve all of our problems. That's the product expert, the product knowledge specialist that you have. And they're going to be able to share all of the information that they need to know. Now, the salespeople have to guide the conversation because product knowledge experts love to talk about how much they know.
That's right.
Salespeople have to squelch them a little bit and throttle them back and control the conversation.
And you have to teach them to ask questions.
Yeah, let's move on to another one because we can go on forever on these. These are understanding the intent behind the action. Understand why somebody is asking you that question. Understand why are they doing that particular action of whatever it is, if it's not calling you back or they're asking you a lot of questions in a specific area. It's really understanding the intent behind the content. Why are they asking me that? Why are they asking me that now? Why is that important? And intent is emotional. Why is an emotional question. So every question that begins with why, you're triggering an emotion and understanding the intent behind the question that the prospect is asking. Any examples you have on that, Bill?
Well, I think the thing that I would say on understanding that, that's the follow-up question, right? So they tell you why they tell you what they're doing, and then you say something like, really? Tell me more. How does that work? What does that mean to you? And those are those little quick follow-up questions that then drive the conversation deep into intent that you're talking about.
Yeah, good one. What's your next one?
My number 4 is stretching the truth or lying. I see salespeople do this. We can get it for you in a week when you know it's going to be a month, but you think that's what it's going to take to close the deal. Yeah, our product does that when it doesn't quite do that as well, but that's the main thing the client wants. It's better to walk away from a deal that you can't really deliver on than to stretch the truth or lie. But because we've invested so much, we're hesitant to walk away or to give it to somebody else or to admit that we can't do it 100%, but we're better over here, and make sure that they get a real good vision of what we can do. So stretching the truth or lying, you might get the initial deal, but you won't get the follow-up stuff.
Every time I hear a salesperson lie, I go, no, I told you a million times not to exaggerate. and they look at me going, oh, I'm sorry. They don't even see the sarcasm in it. And I don't call him a liar. I call him an unfaithful historian. You're being an unfaithful historian. What do you mean? That's not how you should remember it. You're not being completely honest and upfront and remembering what we talked about earlier. So you're not being faithful to the truth the faithful to the facts.
All right. Go ahead with your next one.
My next one is competition. Working with competition, never say a bad thing about competition, because what you're really doing sometimes is insulting the prospect on a decision that they made to hire them in the past. And take the opportunity to learn more about how they're comparing you against the competition. Compare the situation back then and the situation today. Compare the situation of not calling the competition and calling you. Really understanding the situation of what changed since you worked with them and what's more important now that they're not delivering. Do the scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your competition or rank the other company? Well, I'd give them an 8. Oh, really? Why so high? Oh, what's missing that they didn't get a 10? I worked with a company one summer, and I had 3 deals when I had a competitor, and I won all 3 deals. And I won all 3 deals because the prospects that I worked with, I asked them the question, besides me, what other options are you considering? And they go, well, we're talking to another training company. I go, oh, okay. Well, I've been in this marketplace for 20 years, 30 years, depending on how you measure it. I'm kind of curious who you're working with, if you don't mind sharing with me. Well, we're not really comfortable sharing that. I said, okay. I usually find that when somebody's working with a good company, I'll tell them they got a great choice. If they're working with a company that I don't think has the greatest reputation, I won't say anything. If you want to use that information, that history, that knowledge that I have to your advantage, feel free to ask me. If you don't want to use it to your advantage, I'm okay with you not sharing the information at all. Well, I'll let you put it like that. We're also working with so-and-so. And I go, not a bad company. I think between the two of us, you're not going to waste your money. You're going to get a good result. And I think the expectations that you have are going to be achieved. Wow, really? I go, yeah. And then they mention my name to the competition, and the competition then badmouths me. And for no reason at all. And my prospect comes back to me and says, well, you were very gracious with the competition. They weren't as gracious with you, which is why we're hiring you. I go, fabulous.
Yeah. Whenever I get into the competition question, I just usually say, you know what? Hey, that's a great company. You'll do well with them. Let's talk about what we have to offer. And I just want to move the conversation back on to what we do and not focus on what that competition is. I like to know it so that if there's something that they don't do particularly well and I do particularly well, I want to point that out. Not that they don't do it well, but that I do it well. I do want to set up some landmines for the competition that they have to overcome without mentioning them specifically, and talking about some things that are important and really focusing on those. So when they go back and talk to the competition, they can't really do that as well. So I think that's important to know where your strengths lie versus the competition, but you don't have to bring them up. You just emphasize those values. All right. My last one is not listening to understand. So I kind of stole this from the book.
Relevant.
Yeah. But that also talks, I guess that's so similar to your understanding the intent behind the action, but really listen to understand, really focus your listening. Don't think about the next question. That's why I have them written down. So I don't have to think about the next question while they're answering, and I could just listen and note, take, and delve into it, and then go on to the next one if that conversation starts to die a little bit. So preparing your questions helps you listen to understand. Taking notes helps you to focus on them versus focusing on the next thing you want to do.
Yeah. Great stuff. And again, like Bill mentioned earlier, send in your challenges that you have. Send in the reasons on why your deal went south. We'd love to hear from you. And you can find all the information at winningatselling.com.
I do have one resource, a 2-minute selling tip called Making Assumptions. We'll link that on the web page. As we close up today, Scott, you've got a golden nugget.
And the golden nugget is out of the book. And I looked it up and it clarified a little bit. It says, do not seek to follow in the footsteps of the wise. Seek what they sought. And how do you pronounce the name, Bill?
Matsuo Basho, it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Not one that rolls off my tongue very well, but interesting quote. Yeah, what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, I think when you work with somebody that you admire, that you respect, that's a coach, that's a mentor, I think there's two types of leaders in this world. I think there are leaders that make you a better follower, and then there are ones that make you a better leader. And I do not want to create better followers. I want to create better leaders. I want to generate enough inspired friction in somebody that they want to learn more than I do, that I did. And they end up becoming a better leader because of me. And they seek a higher, greater source than me. I am not the source. Don't create a better follower, create a better leader.
Great idea, Scott, on that quote. If you want to find out any information, go to our show notes at winningatselling.com. You can contact Scott or I, send us notes on what you think are the best ways to screw up your sale, or just ask us any kind of a question.
And next week, we're going to be covering habit number 7, sharpen the saw, from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And our topic is going to be how to project confidence.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.